Fisherman's Post. More fish, more often.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast series. This episode is titled High Speed and Live Bait Fishing for Wahoo. And it's going to be featuring Captain Jessey Vereen, shallow-minded fishing charters out of the North Myrtle Beach area. And we're going to be covering such areas as high-speed tactics and lure choices, how to catch live baits and keep them alive, live bait tactics, and then using high speed and live baiting together in synchronicity. I'm your host, Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post, and Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community of Carolina since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, membership content, and now in this latest and greatest effort, the Fisherman's Post podcast series, where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina, South Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their insights, their thoughts on how to catch more fish more often. In this endeavor, I am joined by podcast co-host David Harden.
Hello, Gary.
David, hey, man.
What is going on?
We are talking Wahoo tonight.
Wahoo is good.
Wahoo is good.
Yes.
And
I'm
I think it's a very popular topic, man. And I like Jesse's angle on it. We've never had anyone talk about live baiting for Wahoo on here. And so I think this is going to be one of our more popular podcasts.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Well, before we get rocking, let's thank some sponsors. We got Port City Signs and Graphics.
Thank you, Sabrina, and the team at Port City Signs and Graphics.
Yep, they're doing good work.
They are the business owner's friend, so if you are one of those, if you are a business owner, then at several points, you might have design needs, and Port City Signs and Graphics is your go-to.
Well, since they deal in signs, I'm going to show you a couple signs, and you tell me which one you think was made by Port City Signs and Graphics.
I welcome this game. I'm so good at this game.
Here's sign number one. It says, I looked up opaque. The definition wasn't very clear.
All right. All right, Indian Hills.
There we go. I know that they never disappoint. Okay, sign number two. It's a nice hanging sign for the Crown and Fiddle Pub and Kitchen.
I'm not familiar.
I'm not either, but it's got to be a real place because they did a sign for it.
They did do a sign.
That's right.
That's like a real building and a real sign.
Yep.
And I think a lot of their stuff is simplicity but looks professional. And again, like you've seen on this podcast, man, they have all kinds of different options when it comes to signs. So, illuminated, whatever it is, man.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
If they can put it on a sign, they'll do it.
You want to put a sign, you want to plaster that van or truck, they'll do it. You want to do your boat, they'll do it, man.
Yep.
They do wraps.
They do everything. You know who else does everything?
Who else does everything?
Marine Warehouse Center.
Everything Marine.
Everything Marine to get you on the water.
Love those guys.
You want to watch video?
I love to watch their video.
All right, here's a video.
Matt with Vereen Warehouse, excited to give you guys a huge update. We're now carrying Seabourn and Spider boat line. Of course, we have the newest models of Carolina Skiff, Sailfish, Sea Chaser, and Pan Marine. With over 60 boats in stock at a Wilmington location, let's schedule a sea trial and let's get you on the water today.
There they are.
They're going to get you on the water today.
That's right. That'd be good. I would appreciate that.
They do get me on the water. I mean, I tell you, every time I'm on the water, I don't take it for granted, man. My boat of several years now, they keep a good care of it, man. Every time it starts, I leave, I come back to the dock.
There you go. That's all you're going.
Sales, service, and parts. Our friends there at Marine Warehouse Center, Emmett and Terrell owner. And Terrell, like I said, man, he's getting a little psychedelic on us, man. You want to hear his latest he dropped on me?
And I would love to hear that.
Here's his latest that he dropped on me, man. I think he's not as busy as he used to be. He's got more time for reflection. I think that's what's happened. His latest reflection is this. Terrell says, it doesn't matter what temperature the room is. It's always room temperature.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. It's good. It's very
always
profound.
Room temperature. Profound.
It is very profound.
I wonder if Terrell's been referred to as profound all his life.
Probably. I would imagine. He's going to be philosophically correct in everything he says. So if you would like to sponsor the podcast, contact the Fisherman's Post office.
Yeah. We'd love to have you. We'd love to also have you as join our membership. So we have membership content. If you're a fan of the podcast, want more podcasts, want to support the podcast, then become a premium content member. Early podcast releases, bonus podcast content, In addition to that, you get access to our weekly video fishing reports up and down the North Carolina coast. Talk to 11 guides from everywhere from Little River up to Northern Outer Banks.
Sounds good.
It is good. It's a good deal. And I tell you what, David.
Yes, sir.
I know you like Wahoo. I don't know your familiarity with Wahoo, though.
We went, one of the best fishing trips I ever went on was a Wahoo trip. Well, and this was years ago. It was, but I don't think we were live bait fishing though.
I know you weren't live bait fishing.
It was like
I wasn't on that trip, but I know you weren't.
It was like 10 years ago.
You weren't.
So,
well, look, I'm going to come to you for David's best takeaway.
All right, sounds good.
All right, but now, man, it's my pleasure. First time podcast guest. Hello, Captain Jessey Vereen, shallow-minded fishing charters operating out of the North Myrtle Beach area. And before we start talking Wahoo, and I'll tell you, man, I am excited to talk about live bait fishing for Wahoo. But before we do that, man, the tradition is nobody gets on the podcast until they answer 2 questions. Jessey, you tell me you're ready. I'm going to give you question number 1.
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
I believe you are, Jessey. So question number 1, predictably, why should anyone listen to anything you have to say about a Wahoo?
Well, first off, born and raised here. We've been Wahoo fishing this area for a long time. We've had some good success with it. We've got pictures to prove it. Just like anything, everybody's got their own techniques. So I like to hear a little bit of everybody. So if you guys take the time to listen to mine today, you might pick up on a few things, and maybe I'll hear something from somebody else another time. So in that question, I think it's just best to listen to everybody's techniques. You know what I mean? Take a little bit from everybody.
Man, I do know what you mean, man. I like the approach, man. Fishing is a lifelong learning process, man. I think that's healthy. And like we talked about in the show setup, man, I like that you're, self-described as relatively new to live baiting, and you're learning something new every time you go out. But I think that's going to be a great perspective here for this podcast. But here I am shining you, and you haven't even gotten through number 2, man. You ready for question number 2?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's the deal, man. I focused on high speed, so I have some true-false questions that relate to high speed. True, false. There has been a car that has hit the 700 mile per hour mark.
Yeah, I believe so. No.
There is. It's the Thrust SSC. I think that's supersonic car. And in 1997, it went 763 miles an hour.
In 97?
In 97.
Wow.
Yeah, they haven't been able to beat it in that long.
Huh.
Or maybe they're not trying. All right, question number 2. True, false. A man has hit the 30 mile per hour mark running.
I believe that to be true.
The internet says no. The internet says, the Usain Bolt has hit 27.8. Right?
Oh, well, that's pretty close.
But not 30, 27 per 8. And then here, just one last little piece of trivia. If you can guess within 20 miles per hour, what is the top speed of a male horsefly? I know, right? I'm intrigued too. I was
20 miles an hour. I'm gonna say 40.
Nope. Dave, you got a guess?
I'll say 25.
It's 90 miles an hour.
90?
That's what the internet says. The internet's not wrong, man. Male horsefly, 90 miles per hour. Wow. So that is our high-speed segue into high-speed and live bait fishing for Wahoo. So I guess, Jessey, I'm going to let you set the stage, but I believe, again, in just our sort of pre-show chat, that you use high speed to set up live bait. So we're not going to start with live bait. We're going to start with high speed to find the fish, or I'll just get out of the way and let you tell me about high speed.
Yeah, so typically what we do is we set up the morning, we put our high speed spread out, and basically we're looking for anything from locating the bait, locating the temperature breaks, just kind of finding where the life is for the day. A lot of times when we roll up on that bait, we'll stop and we'll try to go ahead and load our tubes up and go ahead and get our bait right then and there. But when you get that high speed stuff out, you're just basically looking for any signs of life, any kind of temperature breaks, and you're really looking to try to get a few runs. You're trying to get a couple hits high speed. And if you can get some hits and you start seeing some shriekers, like when you're marking the big pods of bait, and you start seeing some shrieks in there and some more definitive Wahoo marks you see on your sonar, so that's kind of the stuff we'll loop back to and come back and we'll live bait it. The problem with the live baiting is you just have you can't cover enough ground. So when you put the two of them together, you really you get to locate with your high speed, and then you get to pull the big fish out the pack using the live bait.
Okay, man. I tell you what, like I already have a question. So my audience, I think I just assume they have loads of questions. I mean, and I take little for granted. So I ask a lot of follow-ups. So on this trip where we're going to high speed and live bait, talk to me first about how you pick up, how you sort of plan where you imagine you're going to find Wahoo that day. If you go into a little bit more detail, like what are you looking for break wise? What are you looking for before you leave the dock, and then what might change your mind after you leave the dock?
So coming up in the fall, typically, as these water temperatures cool off, you're gonna get on some SST charts, some chlorophyll charts, and you're gonna look for that prettiest, that best section of water where you got some sort of a couple degree temperature break, or if the temp break's pushed up onto like the continental shelf out there, what we call the break that runs up and down the coast. You're kind of looking for those temperature breaks to swing on and off of those, or be relatively close to those, um, that big, shelf that runs down through there. And sometimes we'll run way north, and sometimes we'll run way south. It just depends on where the water's at. And obviously, you're looking for the blue water. You don't want to be in the dirty water. You want to be leaning towards, trying to find that cobalt blue water, trying to find something that's going to have some life in it. So doing your homework the night before, going over your SST charts, your chlorophyll charts, really helps you pick your direction. I know some guys get hung in. They like to fish the same places day in, day out. But these fish, they don't know what these places are named. They don't know, why those fish are there is more relatively just being with the water. The right water is more important than any of it. And that water's going to hold the bait. That water's and it's going to hold the fish. I like to find the eddies. If you can find any kind of current that swoops back in, if you can find any kind of like big altimetry, big upwellings in the sea, those are real good to kind of look at. But you just try to do all that planning that you can that morning or the night before, and then basically take that and you get out there and pick your direction. Most of the time we're going up towards the scarp or up north towards the nipple or the same old hole. Some either direction.
Okay, man. And then I guess my other question is it one and the same? The place that you plan on targeting Wahoo, is that also going to be the place that you plan on catching your live bait?
Yeah, so typically that's the goal. You want to fish what those fish are out there eating on. The little bullet bonitas, the little baby blackfins, all that stuff's super killer bait. Sometimes we'll pin up some live bluefish, and we'll take bluefish out there with us. They're just easier to keep alive. Um, so if you do have bait pens, like I was telling you earlier, if you're a king mackerel fisherman, live baiting for the wahoo kind of comes real easy to these guys. It don't take much. It's just basically a souped up king mackerel rig. Um, So if you got the ability to have live bluefish pinned up, that's probably a more secure way to go. Sometimes you get out there and you can't find a bait, and that's a problem we'll run into here and there. But most of the time when you're high speed and you're running around out there, you'll see some sort of bait either on a sonar or you'll see it come to the top in the mornings. And then we use a bunch of different jigs or Clark spoons or there's a bunch of different ways to catch the bait. But I like to use these R&Rs. They're probably one of my favorites. I don't know if y'all can see those or not.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much like a big sabiki rig, and we take those with like an 8-ounce bank sinker on them, and we'll cast those if they're deep. We'll send them down, and we'll try to jig them up from the deep. If they're up top busting, we'll just throw a casting sinker on them, like a 1-ounce casting sinker, and we'll throw it across the bait, and we'll catch them on a 1-ounce casting sinker on these sabikis. They make a bunch of different ones, but even like this 3-hook rig one right here, it's got a bigger hook in it. But these are the R&R, the FSH4 models, and they're pretty much a 30-pound, 4-hook rigs. And typically that works good for the bullet bonitas. And then we'll pull little Clark spoons too, just like Spanish mackerel tackle. they'll eat that stuff up real good, either on a trolling lead or you can put it on like a little number 2 planer. Um, so, the goal is to either go out there with some bluefish, or once you get out there and you start high speeding, you want to jig it up. And then you want to take advantage of that as soon as you see it. And then, if you haven't seen any signs of wahoo at that point, a lot of times what we do is we'll get our bait, get it all pinned up, or get it all in the tubes. We got a tube system from Naughty Rooster. He's really big into this live bait and stuff. And he makes these tube setups, these modular setups that fit in most boats. He's got them custom made to go right in. And if he doesn't, he's got the ones that they mount inside the live wells. And you don't have to do no plumbing or nothing. You just plug them up right to your downrigger outlets or whatever outlets you got on the boat. And those are probably the best way to keep those bullet bonitas and those little black fins alive. That's really important. You can't keep them alive in just a regular live well setup. You got to have some sort of tube system. But then that's where the bluefish come. So not everybody wants to buy tubes. Not everybody has the ability to put tubes in their boat. But that's where, if you can have the bluefish pinned up, pretty much everybody can do that. If they king mackerel fish, like I said earlier, pretty much all these guys can hold a couple bluefish and throw them in the live well and bring them out there with them.
Okay, man. So again, I'm full of I'm full of questions, and I'm with you. Especially if someone's watching this and saying, "I want to try it for the first time," then a live bluefish might be an easier entrance than the tubes.
Yeah.
So if it is bluefish, man, in your opinion, what's the right size bluefish for the live bait and wahoo?
Man, I like big baits when I'm wahoo fishing. I like real big baits. My high speed lures are all big. I don't pull nothing small. I've seen 25-pound fish eat lures, 16, 18 inches, no problem. They love them. I was talking to Capt at Naughty Rooster the other day, and he was telling me 115 pounder they got it the other day. It had a blackfin's head in it that was the size around as a dinner plate from gill to gill. So I mean, I think these fish they come in, they cut the tail off of these fish, and they come back around to finish them. If it's me and I'm going to pick out some bluefish, I'm going to at least try to get some 16 to 18 inch baits to pull around.
Okay, man. And then similar question with bullet bonita, man. If you could pick your size of bullet bonita, what would that be?
Same thing.
Okay.
You just don't want to go too big. Sometimes you get them out there, and when they get too big, they're hard to live bait. It's hard to keep them under control without pulling the hooks out of them. So typically, I'll fish anything from a 12-inch bait to an 18-inch bait. It's kind of like my rule of thumb. But, sometimes you got to take what you can get. We're not going to be too picky.
So we can't get I don't think it'll benefit us to get too technical, because if someone wants to do the tubes, then they're going to talk, I'm sure, in detail with someone like Naughty Rooster. But are those tubes, they're connected to the live wells, or they're inside the live wells? I mean, without going into too much detail, just let me have a little bit more of an idea of what that's going to look like if I go that route.
Okay, so what he's doing is he's setting up modular setups. So he's got a 3D printed tube, and you can buy them singles, doubles, triples, quads. And then certain models of boats, he's got a full drop-in system. But there's no plumbing done, because all the tubes on the bottom of the tubes, they got their own pumps on each tube, and he's got it wired into a harness. Now all you do is you go over there to your downrigger plug and plug it in. There's no plumbing or nothing. It's literally just a drop-in system. And so that eliminates having to do any kind of plumbing or anything to your boat. These offshore boats nowadays, they all got a plug in the back. So if they don't, you can bring you like a little generator or something.
And it's a drop-in system in the live well, so the live well is what supplies the water, because it's wired that way anyway. But the drop-in has its own pump that will pressurize each tube.
Yep, that's it. They got a diffuser in the nose. There's a nose cone in there. It's got a diffuser in it. So it's also pumping that air through them. A lot of times when we put our baits in there, man, they come out just as, if not happier than when we put them in. So, I mean, that's a game changer. But then they got these, I don't know if you can see this or not. I have this sitting by the table here. But you got these buckets that my buddy over at How You Reel and Tackle, Captain Eric Needoff over there, they got these buckets that basically you can hook this. The way I got it set up, you can hook this right to your washdown hose.
Okay.
So you just unscrew the nozzle on your washdown hose and hook this right to it. You got 4 tubes right there. You drop them things in head first. And it's just a Yeti bucket with your 4 tubes right in the top. And then it's got the nose cones down in the bottom there. You probably can't see them. But there's nose cones down in the bottom. And it does a real good job as long as you got a pretty good washdown pump on the boat. They'll get you by. They don't work as good as the ones that go down in the live well from Naughty Rooster, but they definitely will get you by.
So let me ask this, man, and it might be 2 different answers. If I'm using that bucket system or I'm using the Naughty Rooster system that drops into the live well, how long will I be able to keep that bullet bonito alive over the course of a day of fishing?
In the bucket right there, you got probably 4 or 5 hours with him.
All right.
Depending, but with that, with the setups that drop down in the live well from Naughty Rooster, man, I've had them things. We can ride around with them all day long, and when we get ready to leave, they're still just fired up as when we put them in there. And it has a lot to do with how you handle your bait once you get them too. If you drop them on the floor and let them get beat up, and they sit there and beat around on the floor, they're obviously not going to live that long. But if you take good care of them and get them right in the tubes, they'll live pretty much all day for you.
Right on, man. I like it. So let's go back to the fishing scenario. So now we're out to the break. We're out to where you like our chances. We haven't seen any bait yet. So it seems like you're telling me, unless you see bait, if you see bait, then that rules. If you don't see bait, then you start fishing, you start high speed trolling just because you're covering more water, whether to find bait or fish. So with giving high speed some time and not just focusing on live bait, man, what is it that you like to pull? You tell me what happens when you get to your point, you're putting out your spread. What does your spread look like?
Normally, what I like to run a lot of cup lures. And that just is because they ride better at the 16, 17, 18 mile an hour points. They just kind of stay down in the water a little bit better for me. They don't come jumping out. I like these Zac Attack lures, the bigger ones. Like I said earlier, I don't fish nothing small. I think this is their 16 or 18 inch. These are the hook sets from Naughty Rooster with the Voodoo hooks. So when I get these lures, I pretty much crimp and press all my stuff, but he sends them just like that.
Okay.
The 11 O's and the 12 O's. But when I get out there, typically I like to pull some cup lures. And then I like the AFW lures a lot. I like the Mr. Big, the 48 ounce Mr. Big. I think it's 48 or 46 ounce. And that's more of a bullet head with your portholes in it. It blows a lot of smoke and it rides a little higher. It's a good running bait. And then, obviously we're pulling them on trolling legs. But typically what I'll do is I'll run a Mr. Big long, and then I'll kind of, right there on my wings, I'll normally run 2 cup lures, or I'll run another Mr. Big in the mix. But then when I get in there tight, I'm either going to normally run a real big lure in there, something to try to really get those fish's attention. And it's either normally going to be like one of these black bark Brazilian Pro Jets, which is a huge lure. We'll rig that with that 12-0 Voodoo hook in it from those hook sets from Naughty Rooster. And that thing just makes a ton of commotion right there. I'll fish it right over the first wake. As soon as you drop it back, pretty much putting my trolling lead, I run like a 64 right there. And I like the trolling leads from Diamond that have the wire out in front of them. Can't tell you how many times you lose everything and you use shark leader, lure, your weight and everything because you're fishing a lead that's got the loops just right here at the end of it, and they don't have a little bit of room because these Wahoo come in and they hit these leads all the time. So you definitely want the ones with the wire in front so you don't lose all your stuff. But back to the spread, I fish, like I said, the Project or a cowbell. I like a real big cowbell right there in that same position. And that's killed a lot of fish. That whole spread there. Like I said, I normally run on a tournament day, I'm running 5 rods. Just a regular typical day, I'll probably normally just run a 4-rod spread, especially if I don't have a mate on the boat. It's just me. I'll run a 4-rod spread, or if we're short-handed, don't have but 2 or 3 people on the boat. You got to start clearing all that stuff. That's a lot of work while you're trying to keep a fish tight, So, but as far as the high speed spread, that's typically what we like to put out.
How sensitive are you to color selection when it comes to those lures in your spread?
I pay a lot of attention to that. If you get a hit on one color, you might want to get some more of that out there. And if you get hit on it again, you definitely want to double up on that color out there. Always purple and black's a staple. The American Express, blue and white, or white over blue or blue over white, that's a big staple. This time of year, you got a lot of big flyers out at the Georgetown Hole. The other day, we were out there. I seen some of the biggest flyers I've seen. Out forever. I mean, they're huge. And that's where that blue and white's going to correlate. Your purple and black, always a staple. It looks like, those black fin out there. Summertime, I always keep one in the spread though, a beeliner color. You always got to have one of those in the spread. And then like in the spring, I know a lot of people don't always keep a bright, like a mahi color in the spread. I typically don't either, but if there's a lot of dolphin in the area, you might want to keep a mahi color out there too. I've seen days out there. When I watched my buddy Mark one day, he was out there and he's done had a limit of Wahoo before anybody's got their first bite, and every one of them came off a green lure and nobody's out there pulling green. As soon as he kind of let the word out, everybody put a green lure out, and then everybody started catching fish. So they are real picky about that color. Sometimes you just gotta find what they want.
Okay, man. So we got our spread, and I think you told me we're doing 16, 17, 18 miles an hour. Is that your range?
Yeah, I typically like to stay at 17 mile an hour. That's just where my boat likes to ride. I think, the most important thing is don't worry about the number. Worry about where your boat rides. My boat, it'll kick over and get on plane and kind of stay right there on pad around that 16 and a half, 17, 18 mile an hour mark. And I try to keep it right there because my fuel burns a little better. There's not so much bog on the motors. I think I get a little bit less smoke I think the weight cleans up a lot. So, it's kind of all those things you're looking at to make the boat fish better. The boat's got to fish good too, as long as, you got to fish good, the lure's got to fish good, the boat's got to fish good.
So when you're searching for fish, man, what rules the day? Is it what you're seeing on your machine? Is it an area that has you excited, or is it water that has you excited?
Man, any of it can get you excited. If there's been a super hot bite, like last year, the SC Wahoo series, now that line ran all the way down off of Georgia. So sometimes, you get excited about going to fish a new area, like down there the WR4 towers and the Navy towers they got out there. Just going to a new place like that, sometimes it gets you excited. A good report, it gets you excited. If you got buddies that's been out there, that's been on a hot bite, or, you just certain times of year, when we're coming up right here in November, man, I've had days where I've had over, 10 fish in a day, and every one of them be over 60 pounds this time of year. This is when you see the big ones. So, when the summer's kind of coming to an end and everything, it's time to start gearing up and see some real big wahoo. And that should get anybody excited if they have a passion for it.
All right. I know that we want to get to live bait fishing, but just to give high speed, its conclusion, man, tell me what happens on your boat when we get a big bite. We get our fish, it's a wahoo, and then what happens next?
Man, it depends on what position he's in and how hard he's running. But you try to get somebody on that rod immediately. And typically, as soon as I get the bite, I don't come right off the throttle on, because there's a lot of times you'll double, triple, and even get 4 on at a time. So typically once I get that hit, I'll let it keep rolling on for another 15, 20 seconds, maybe even closer to 30 seconds. You don't like to roll it too hard because you do got a lot of drag on that fish. You don't want to pull your hooks. But typically we get somebody on that rod and back off of him, get down to about 6 knots, 5, 6 knots, kind of keep him tight the whole way through. And pretty much gonna bust that fish. Most of the time with the high speed gear, you got such heavy tackle on there, you don't want to pick that up and try to put it in a belt or nothing. Normally we're fishing 50s or 80s, and we're fishing a lot of heavy tackle, so we're normally gonna bust that fish. Once we got him tight, we got all the lines cleared, we'll start putting the boat into a corner, whichever way that fish wants to go. We'll try to lean the boat to that direction and just cut a big circle and try to keep him out the motors and just keep him right on the side there and try to get the gaff in him, you know.
Okay. So you have 15 seconds of keeping it up. And then after that 15-second mark, that's when the instructions goes out to clear the lines. And then the angler just keeps it tight. So I follow all that. So I guess what the question is now, for this podcast is, you find a fish. If you get a bite, is that your signal that it's time to live bait? Or is it you need to see something more? Or do you switch over to live bait even without a bite? You see something else that gets you excited, and you don't even have to have that first bite.
Typically, if you got the gear on the boat to do the live bait fishing, if you get that first bite right there, I'll put them right back out and I'll make a couple more passes. If I don't get another hit, I'll try to see why that fish was there. Normally there's a reason why those fish are where they're at. There's some sort of bait, there's some sort of temperature break, there's something that's gotten them fish holding there. So we try to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out why he's there and try to hone in on that specific spot, whether it be a knot of bait that's, subsurface down there, 80, 100 foot, but you see streakers kind of coming across your sonar machine. A lot of times that's them wahoo, and you just can't get them to eat that high speed stuff sometimes, especially them bigger, older, more educated fish. And then I've seen it where they won't eat a live bait too, and those fish are just they're a window eater. They just, when they're ready to feed, they feed. That's as simple as that. I mean, I've seen it where they don't turn on but for 45 minutes in the whole day, and I've seen it where they'll sit there and bite all day. But when they're ready to eat, they'll eat. But if I do get that one bite, normally I'll pull back across it a few more times. If I got the live bait in the boat already, I'll come back around and I'll stay in that general area for another couple hours. Or it just depends. I kind of feel it out most of the time. If it feels fishy, it feels like there's more fish there. I see bait, I see something that makes me want to stay. I'll stay right there and I'll keep live baiting it. And a lot of times, the live bait fishing, it feels a lot slower. It's a lot less going on. But man, sometimes we see giant key mackerel doing that. See a lot of a lot of really big wahoo when you do get them. And sometimes, you burn through some baits with the sharks and everything else. And that's another thing, live baiting, you would think, you try to put a downrigger down or something, man, but our sharks have just gotten so bad here. You can't really live bait fish on a downrigger out there.
Okay.
It's terrible.
Okay, man. So now let's be on the boat, and you feeling it fishy. You see what you need to see to make the transition. So we're putting away the high speed. And I guess basically the same way we set up high speed, man. Now that we're going to be live bait fishing, man, tell me what that looks like. Like how you setting up the boat? What are you doing?
Typically, we're bumping along 2, 3, 4 mile an hour. You can pull them bullet bonitas a little bit faster than you pull like menhaden and bluefish and stuff like that on the beach. Sometimes them baits like to pull a little quick. So just kind of matching what your bait's going to let you do. Get that spread out there. Typically run a 3-rod spread, 3-4-rod spread. If you don't have that many baits, you can get away with 2 or 3 baits out there. But a lot of times we're running a big 3-hook rig on these fish. And Eric over at How You Reelin', he's actually probably got some of the best rigs I've seen for the live bait wahoo fishing, especially the kite fishing, because we put the kites up out there too. And then that's a whole nother part to the live bait in there. But these rigs are pretty much just a big glorified bluefish rig for key mackerel fishing. We'll run like some 60-pound hard wire titanium, 60 to 80 pound, and then kind of come down through. Hold on one second, I'm trying to unwrap one here.
Sure.
But it's basically just a big nose hook, like a 6.0 Mustad Ultra Point. And then me personally, I like to run the owner treble hooks, the ST66s. They're my favorite hook right now as far as fishing like blues, bullet bonitas and stuff like that. When you're in clean water, they're a dull silver color. And I think they blend into the bottom of those fish real good. But I don't know if y'all can see that or not.
Oh, yeah, we can see it.
It's basically just a 3-hook rig. You got your nose hook. And sometimes, if you want your bait to run a little bit deeper, instead of hooking him right in the nose, you can hook him in the top of the head right there, and he'll kind of plane down, and he'll swim. And that's normally what I do with my close bait. So my long bait, I'll run my long bait. I'll go up through the top of his mouth, in his mouth, out the top, or either in the nose, and then run the rig right down his belly. And then the bait that I got close, I'll hook him in the top of the head to kind of get him to swim more down. And like I said, it's just basically a oversized king mackerel rig with a 60 to 80 pound leader in the front.
So other than the nose hook, are you putting the, like say the second hook anywhere on the fish, or are they both free?
No, so you pin them down the belly,
Okay.
right down the belly. I like them on the bottom side. Those fish, a lot of times, they don't hit them from the top. They hit them from dead from the side or from the bottom up. So I typically like to have those hooks running down the belly. Sometimes I feel like if the fish are being super, super finicky, and we're just having a hard time getting a bite, we'll run them down the back to try to hide them, and kind of get those hooks a little bit, tucked away where they're not seeing them as much. But normally with that silver hook right there, those ST66s, they blend in with those fish. And it's a super sticky hook. They don't miss. Like I said, that's my go-to for right now on those for sure.
Are you using that rig when you have bluefish, or do you have to scale it down a little bit?
No, I use it for all of them. If I got a real big bonita, like those are number 2s right there. I think those are number 1s. I'll fish number 1 or a number 2 on them. A number 2 normally on the bluefish. Those bullet bonitas, they can hold that bigger hook on them a little bit better.
And this may be a dumb question, but three lines, short, medium, long.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then 2, what'd you say, 2 to 3, maybe even 4, depending on how the bait's acting?
Yeah, if they're pulling clean and you can get a 4th one out, put them out. But those bullet bonita, they're fast. They're quick baits and they kind of dart all over the place. But after you pull them for a minute, they kind of settle in. Once they settle in, you can drop that 4th one in there and should be able to get it to work out pretty good.
I'm sorry, man. It's like 2 to 3 to 4 miles per hour. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, sir. That's
okay.
It. You don't really have to pull them that hard. Really, sometimes you'll get those baits out there and they want to be pulled fast. Basically, what you're doing is you're getting out there and you're just trying to keep your lines tight, like somewhat tight. You don't want to let big bellies in the line and let them slack up and let the baits come up past you.
What about the drag, man? What's
keep your lines with a little bit of tension on there so they don't get a big belly in them.
Are you setting the drag like a king mackerel live bait fisherman might? Pretty light?
So when I'm fishing like these number 1s and stuff, I set it light, but I set it with enough heat on it to set that hook. I think that's real important. I think some people, like even with kingfish, I think you go too light. Here in the Carolinas, we just fish a lot of light stuff. So all these guys that are growing up live bait fishing, everybody fishes super, super, super light and like number 6s and number 4s. But when you step up to those number 1, number 2 hooks, you got to put a little bit more drag there just to get that hook in there. Because, if you know anything about a Wahoo, he's got a real hard mouth. And you want to make sure you get that hook drug in there pretty good.
And I do follow, man. And so when you, I guess, like, again, to use like the same scenario we did with high speed. So is it similar? You get a bite, like as long as that fish isn't clearly compromising or putting another line at risk, you're leaving the other 2 lines out for a little bit, but ultimately you're going to clear them?
Yeah. Now, them Wahoo, now, they'll stretch you out. You're going to have to turn on him and go run him down. A lot of times they're going to stretch you way out. So if you get that bite, you might want to go ahead and capitalize on it. You can get one, you leave one bait out, but you definitely want to turn and get over that fish. Especially if he's staying high on the water column. You got to fish it, typically I like to fish at least 15 foot of like 60-pound fluorocarbon, 40, 50, 60-pound fluorocarbon, whatever you feel comfortable with. I kind of normally my go-to is about 50 on these Wahoo. And when they stretch you out, if you don't turn around and get right over the top of that fish, he's going to stretch you out. He's going to tail wrap. He's going to bust you off. So you definitely want to get your lines cleared and get back over the top of that fish. And once you're cleared and comfortable, you slip a bait right back out and try to keep one fishing while you're doing that, because a lot of times there'd be more fish in the area.
Are you using the same 50s and 80s you use for high speed?
No. I'm using a live bait king mackerel rod.
Okay.
Basically, same thing. Just like a Accurate or a Torium or a Speedmaster. Just a live bait setup. I'll be honest with you. If you're gonna buy an outfit just for live bait setup for Wahoo, you want to go with a little bit stiffer rod just so you can get a little help driving that hook. Naughty Rooster sells some custom live bait rods for Wahoo that are actually really sick rods. He's done a really good job customizing and getting some of that stuff set up. And then, you run a little bit heavier line, like maybe step it up to 30 or 40 pound test. Like I said, I still run just my key mackerel setups on it and get away with it. Don't have no problem at all. But if you do want to get just a setup just for live bait Wahoo fishing, it would help put a little bit of extra heat on those fish, get a little bit more backbone in that rod to drive that hook when they first hit.
So when you're fishing, how much yardage of line do you have on your reels?
About 650, 600, okay. Somewhere in there, 600, 650. And typically that's plenty. Man, sometimes these Wahoo, they go on blistering runs. A lot of times they'll make a 100, 150 yard run and then kind of just get out there and just mellow out. And I mean, they make a couple big runs, but I've seen them real big fish. Like the one we got Amy and we got the front page with the Fisherman's Post of the Year earlier this year. And it might have been last year. It was the U.S. Open last year. We caught that 90 pounder off the kite. And man, I never stopped kite fishing. I kept my kites in the air. We kept right on fishing, and she was able to get that boat turned or get that fish turned and bring him right back to the boat. Never even had to go chase him down, and he was a 90-pound fish. So like I think, in my opinion, fish are like people. Everybody's, some of them are real mean. Some of them you've got to go after and get on top of them.
I like that.
You got some that just are easy. They come right in, and then you got some that give you a fit.
So again, I said at the beginning of the show, man, I like that you self-describe as, relatively new to it, hot for it, and working on it and learning all the time. So for someone that's watching this podcast and they're starting to get the fever and like, man, let's try this out. What's something that you wish you had to learn, but you wish you had been told, or you wish you had gotten a jump start on that? Like, what's a typical mistake or something that the brand new guy is gonna benefit from Jessey Vereen telling him right now?
Always bring everything with you. Don't go out there with just your high speed gear, or don't go out there with just your live bait gear. Always plan for the plan not to work out. Always have plan B, and have second options to try to make this fish bite. So, if you go out there and you just concentrating for one thing, a lot of times you'll go out there and you'll waste that fuel and come up empty handed. You got to always have something else to break out and throw at them.
I got you, man. Anything else, man? I think we're at the natural conclusion of this, man. We covered the live bait, and this is your podcast, and so I just never like to say goodbye without saying, man, anything else that comes to mind? Anything else that people might want to hear, might want to talk about?
Let's see. We went over how to get the bait. Went over kind of a basis of what we like to do with the high speed spread. Man, I'll just really like to shout out, Eric over there at How You Reeling Fishing Tackles. Even if you're a king mackerel fisherman, man, these guys, they got some really good stuff that really help you out, and get a head start on some of the stuff, like in the Naughty Rooster with these hook sets and stuff that he's putting out, and his tuna tubes, man. That's the game changer. And I think it's going to take off here before long, because in the tournament fishing world, you're just not going to be able to compete with these guys that are doing this. They just can cover so much water high speed and then turn around and put out a bait that a big fish is going to eat. I think just the regular trolling days, winning the tournaments, it's still going to happen here and there, but it's going to be just luck, which fishing's mostly just luck anyways. But these guys that are live baiting and high speeding and using the both of them together, I think they're going to dominate the Wahoo series and all your tournaments for Wahoo fishing. You've seen a lot more big fish come off of it. I know there was a tournament down there last year. Me and Captain Ron were talking about. I think he told me that there was a 3 fish aggregate tournament, and these guys live baiting, they had 130 pounds for the 3 fish aggregate, which is unheard of. It's incredible. You don't see those kind of numbers and that kind of weight. I think this thing going to
Wait,
take
they
off
had
a little bit.
130 pounds?
130 pounds for 3 fish. No,
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, 330 pounds.
That's right. I was going to say, man,
Yeah.
I think you told me a different number when we
Yeah,
were chatting.
330 pounds.
All right.
Yeah, every fish was over 100 pounds. Which, there's people out there that's never seen a 100 pounder. I've caught a mini wahoo. I've never seen a 100 pounder, but I've caught 97s and 98s and 90s. Just for some reason, I can't get the triple. So,
Man, I had one other question come to mind as you were talking, as I was just sort of imagining this. And so we talked about transition to live bait fishing, once the wahoo, the high speed finds the bite or finds fish or finds the fishy area. Man, do you find yourself transitioning out of live bait and back to high speed? If the live bait isn't working out, then you go back to search mode?
all the time. Yep. Like I said, we'll pull the high speed to find, locate those fish. If you get a bite, you turn and say, like, sometimes the other day we caught a fish live baiting. We got a short strike on the lead. We had a fish hit the lead. You heard the reel kind of go off for a second, and then got the bite, turned right back around, pitched the bait back out, sat there for probably 20 minutes, so and ended up hooking probably the same fish that hit that lead, or hooked a wahoo in that same area. But sometimes it don't work that way, and you can turn around and say, all right, let's put them out. We just got a knockdown, and go set them out and not get a run for an hour or so. Unless you got a lot of confidence in being there, and that other boats have been hooking up, you need to get back on the move and start locating them, because they're either there and they're not biting, or you can move down the road and try to get into a better bite. But just knowing other boats out there helps a lot too. Listen to radio chatter.
And you might have just said, I might have just missed this detail. And again, I know there is no set answer, but like if you live bait for X amount of time without a bite, typically you'll pick up and start searching again. Is there an answer to that question?
Yeah, I mean, rule of thumb, give it a couple hours. But like, if you're in a tournament, man, sometimes you can't catch them unless you got a line in the water. And if you're confident, you see a big old giant massive knot of bait, and you see streaks all over it, you can sit there on that bait all day long and hang out with it. Eventually those fish might eat, and I've seen where that's paid off, being patient and staying there. And then I've seen where running and gunning and going down the break and, moving on to something else has paid off too. And that's the beauty of it, with the high speed and the live baiting. If you don't feel confident in one area, throw the high speed gear back out, and start working your way somewhere else to find something else. Or if you hear somebody chattering on the radio, a lot of times you don't. I know some people that just pick up and run straight to it. I don't ever really like to do that. I'll kind of put my spread back out. We're doing almost 20 miles an hour anyways. So, like I said, you can't catch them unless you got a line in the water. But back to your question, I'll give it a couple hours. If I'm not feeling it, I'll move. But if it's something that I feel like there should be a fish on, and I'm in a tournament, sometimes you got to sit there and make it pay off, and just work it, work it, work it, and eventually you might get that bite. It kind of goes both ways.
Okay. Hey, this is going to be the last question before I say goodbye and thank you. And the last question is, man, when we were talking about doing a podcast, you gave me all kinds of choices, and, we sort of settled on this one. Man, let's finish by you telling people about Shallow-Minded Fishing Charters, man. I know you're way more than wahoo fishing, so just let people know more about what it is you offer in case they want to go wahoo fishing, or maybe they want to do something else with you.
So Shallow-Minded started back in the day with Captain Mark Dixon. I ended up picking that up from him, and it's started solely as an inshore charter service, and that's still what we do. I don't really advertise our offshore fishing a whole lot online, just because I like to take select clientele and whatnot. But anyways, we do a lot of inshore fishing right now. We're hot and heavy on the redfish. It's been a crazy bite at the inlets. We got 2 inshore boats. And then we all obviously we do a lot of offshore fishing too. But I've been guiding here in the area now for I think this is my 12th season, 11th to 12th season. And I'm born and raised here. But we do everything from flounder fishing, red drum fishing, sheep's head fishing, all the way to all your key mackerel tournaments. We do a lot of grouper snapper fishing, a lot of good bottom fishing around here, and then obviously your wahoo and all your blue water fishing too. So we do anything from live bait charters to bottom fishing to inshore fly fishing. We can do a little bit of everything.
All right, man. Well, Jessey, man, thank you very much. I've enjoyed this conversation. You got me excited for wahoo fishing, that's for sure.
Yes,
and
sir. Thank you.
stick around, man, in that waiting room. We're going to come back to you. But right now, I'm going to bring David back on. We're going to wrap up this podcast.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
y'all.
All right, David Harden.
Hey, Gary.
Are you ready to go catch a wahoo?
I am so ready.
I know, right?
I am ready to go. A couple things stuck with me. First off, I'm always the type of fisherman who's like, where do I go first? It's like the ocean's big. Where do I point the boat? So doing your homework tonight before looking at your temperature breaks and your eddies. Then grabbing some bluefish that are about 16 to 18 inches. The bigger the better is what he said.
Yeah, big baits, big fish.
Bait. And yeah, just the size of those lures he was holding up were just. I mean, those things are massive. Your boat
hopes to see a fish that big, let alone a bait that big, right? Or a lure that big.
Yeah, exactly right. Fish are like people. Some of them are just really mean.
I like that one too. I like that detail too. Some of them are just meaner than others.
Right, yeah.
Well, David, that was a great podcast, man.
Sure was. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, contact the Fisherman's Post Office, and you can be like Port City Science and Graphics and Marine Warehouse Center.
Yeah, very fond of our sponsors, try to serve them well. And we're also fond of the people who support the podcast. So again, if you want to support the podcast, then think about becoming a premium content member, early podcast release, bonus podcast content, as well as weekly fishing reports delivered in video audio form. And it's all on fishermanspost.com. And with nothing else, Dave, let's say goodbye.
Sounds good.